In some, this was a big team effort. Obviously, took a good half a year to plan, and there's a lot more to come. Like we all recognize at We Robotics and Peru Flying Labs, this is just the beginning. We're already scheduled to go back in May with a number of different affordable platforms, and also some excellent drone colleagues and experts and engineers. And we're going to do more of those field tests until we feel like we've got it right, until we feel that it's now really reliable, and then we'll explore further with our partners, local public health partners, as well as in Lima, the possibility of creating a regular delivery service for the first time ever in Latin America. So that's coming up, and we'll be sure to share more about that as we continue learning by doing. In closing, I just want to share quickly, and I'll wrap up after this, just a couple more minutes, that our flying labs are engaged in a number of projects at any given time around the world. And another project I wanted to bring to your attention in Peru, which again our flying labs team is helping to spearhead in Wuhan in particular, is a project that's looking to reduce the incidence of Zika in Peru and elsewhere. And this is an effort that's being supported by USAID and funded by USAID in partnership with the Insect Pest Control Lab at the IAEA in Vienna, Austria. This lab has 50 years of experience in doing insect pest control work, and so we're incredibly fortunate and grateful to have the opportunity to work with such experts. The long story short here, and the reason you see a needle, is that the approach that they're taking is to sterilize male mosquitoes that prevent them from reproducing with female mosquitoes. And previous research has shown that when these sterilized male mosquitoes are released, through cars or at the back of a pickup truck and so on, that in some cases the overall mosquito population can be reduced as much as 90%, which obviously then makes the risk of Zika and other diseases far less. Of course, if you're going to do this by car in the countries that we work in, where Zika is a major challenge, you also face the challenge of the road transportation. Even if roads do exist, you may not actually be able to use them during the rainy season, as you can see here in Papua New Guinea. There are many challenges. And that's why we had pitched to USAID that we could potentially look at doing aerial release of these friendly sterilized male mosquitoes so that we did not need to have any roads. We could go where there were no roads. And we don't suggest that this should replace the ground car-based delivery, not at all. It is simply a way to complement what already works through ground-based release and to help extend this release through aerial solutions. So our Chief Technology Officer and our engineering team at We Robotics is working now on the initial designs for a release mechanism that could hold several 100,000 sterilized male mosquitoes and then release them at a controlled rate. So this mechanism would obviously be attached to a drone, and the drone would then be flown over an area that has reported Zika outbreaks, and we would try and basically reduce the overall population through this particular means. This is, by the way, a screenshot of a different kind of release mechanism that was designed for tsetse flies, but we're in touch with that team to see how much of that original design might still be usable as far as mosquitoes. It's not, I should say, by the way, it's not a trivial challenge. Being able to release, to store in a relatively small, light release mechanism hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes in a way that none of them kill each other, first of all, and then release them at 400, 500 feet or what have you at, whatever, 20 meters per second, and making sure that they don't actually get injured as they get released. It's actually very far from trivial. This is actually a hard challenge, but that's what we like to do at We Robotics. Is we're very keen on doing things that have never been done before and that are challenging. So our plan is by the end of 2017 with Peru Flying Labs and the Insect Pest Control Lab is to do some initial field tests in Peru. And of course, we're learning a lot already from the field tests that I've just shared with you with the anti-venom and so on about what some of the challenges are, because it's not all about the technology. It's about all the challenges that an environment like the Amazon rainforest actually presents in terms of using a technology like that. It's developing all the processes, the checklists, and so on, the best practices around the use of the technology, regardless of the end application. So there's a lot more to learn. That's the presentation for now. Just to say, We Robotics is passionate about all types of different robotic solutions, not just aerial robotics or drones. We're very excited about marine, aquatic robotics, as well as ground robotics. And with a little luck, we'll actually start doing some work with marine aquatic robotics in our Tanzania flying labs before the end of the year, and potentially, if we're lucky and can get the funding, in Nepal as well. So I'll pause here and I'll invite first Juan to add any information that I might have missed or to correct anything that I might have gotten slightly off. Juan, if you're still on the call. Okay, I don't think we can hear Juan. So I'll open it up to questions. Please make sure to unmute yourself and share your question. Thank you. Please feel free. Don't be shy. We're here to basically answer as many questions as we can. And of course, we don't have all the questions. So one of the motivations behind this webinar series is to get your input and to get some hard questions and to let us know what are the questions we should also be asking and any concerns that we need to be keeping in mind as we move forward. So again, we don't claim to be perfect or have all the answers, and really value any input, guidance, suggestions that any of you might have.
I've actually got a question. I've just worked out how to unmute myself.
Oh, hi. Good. Hi. Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Saskia Vermanen, and I'm currently based in the Netherlands. I've got a question about sustainability and how the communities might be able to use this technology in other ways. For example, to run small-scale businesses, small-scale enterprises.
Oh, that's a phenomenal question. Thanks for asking, and thanks for joining us, Saskia. So that's a really great question. Because that's part of our Flying Labs framework. You can learn a bit more on our website in terms of, we have a 4-phase framework to set up our Flying Labs. And the 4th phase, which is what we're working on right now in Nepal for our Nepal Flying Labs, is incubating local businesses around the provision of drones as a service. And so that's really key for our Flying Labs for sustainability and to make sure that these technologies actually continue being used for a wide range of projects. So we're doing phase 4 in Nepal in March, April, and that includes having us provide hands-on professional business management training, how to develop business models, how to do accounting, basically a crash course in how to create a successful business. And then what we'll do in March, April, is hold a business plan competition in Nepal, and we've already gotten about 10 applicants. And we'll be judging these with our board of directors and a distinguished international panel of experts. And the winning team will get the seed funding to start setting up their local business, and they will continue to get business coaching guidance from We Robotics, and we will continue to then drive international clients, as we already have started doing in the case of Nepal, to that local business that becomes a spin-off, if you like, of the Flying Labs. And that business then also provides a return of an investment to the Flying Labs. So a certain percentage of the revenue, once the business is profitable, then goes back to the Flying Labs in question. And so we're exploring this also very much with Tanzania. We're all headed to Tanzania tomorrow to work with our Flying Labs and to start exploring phases 3 and 4 of our framework there. And as far as Peru is concerned, I'm glad you asked, because this is also something that's been an active conversation with partners and our team at Peru Flying Labs, is developing the right approach and model for a spin-off from Peru Flying Labs that would then provide cargo drones as a service to the Ministry of Health and other clients. So again, thanks, Heike, for asking, because it's such a central component to what We Robotics is all about. Doesn't mean it's easy, by the way. We're under no illusion that creating local businesses is easy or quick. But it has to happen as far as we're concerned. It's the only way that we can make these efforts sustainable and scalable as well.
Thank you. I've actually got a couple other questions for you. One's related to funding and how you got sort of seed funding to start testing this. And the other one's related to M&E, so monitoring and evaluation, and what kind of measures have you put in place to evaluate how your efforts, which are really interesting, by the way, great initiatives, wonderful to hear about them, how you go about evaluating them thoroughly. And obviously, this is the third question, tests in Peru were a success. Especially within the humanitarian space, a lot of non-successes do not get shared, and so the community at large cannot learn from that. Is there anything that has gone wrong specifically in your tests, apart from obviously the battery issue? Do you think, okay, well actually we could write this up as a case study and share it with the community?
Thanks, Saskia. Great questions. So a funding question, evaluation, and a question on failure. So for the funding, we received a startup grant from the Rockefeller Foundation last year to start up our first 3 flying labs in Nepal, Tanzania, and Peru. And that's what we were able to use in the context of Peru. I should also really acknowledge and make sure that everybody also is aware that Juan and his team also put in their own funding into our joint collaboration in Peru, which would not have been possible without this kind of co-financing and co-funding. So we were very grateful for that collaboration as well there. So that hopefully answers the question. The USAID funding is specifically around the Zika project and includes helping to continue build the capacity of our Peru flying labs. So as part of the Zika project, we will be transferring cargo drones, technology, software, skills, and so on, training to Peru flying labs as well. So Peru flying labs will have, a larger fleet of drones to use for both mapping as well as cargo delivery. So, the last thing I'll say on the funding question is we're really grateful that we actually had, we were given this 1 year of startup grant funding from the Rockefeller Foundation specifically to experiment. I mean, there's a reason why our labs are called labs. It's because everything that we do is inherently experimental. This is a new technology. These are new ways to think about how to solve challenges around the world. We're exploring how the framework that we developed a year ago actually measures up to reality. We have updated and revised our framework on a regular basis in terms of how do you set up a successful flying labs. And so this whole first year is all geared towards learning about what works and what doesn't work. And so it's incredible to have that kind of luxury to be able to really figure out how to get this right, rather than start off right away and say, we know what the right answer is, and this is how flying labs should be. We said, we think this is how they might be, and we are continuing to update those assumptions on a regular basis. The question about evaluation is also a great question. We obviously, as far as grants go, we are responsible for achieving a number of milestones, M&E indicators, and so on a quarterly basis, monthly reports as well, narrative reports, and obviously budgetary updates and so on. One of the reasons I'm really glad you asked that question is because, yes, great, we wrote a report on the Amazon rainforest, but it's self-reported, and yes, it's better than nothing. Of course, we're being transparent and sharing what we've learned and sharing what hasn't worked.